This is Nature's Valley and it's the start point for the M&G PLETT 4 days of mountain bike stage racing up to Crossways just outside Gqeberha, and a field of 300 riders taking part in this race, and there's some very fast racing teams up at the sharp end. Day one is 76 kilometers as they head towards Tsitsikamma, and the racing is red hot because there's a king of the mountains within the first 3 kilometers. Let's see how they go. The men's race would be contested by the Valley Electrical Titan Racing, Insect Science Pro and Best Performance the Bike Shop teams. RB Kruger and Matthew Kaiser were arguably the form team coming into the race, but Keegan Bontekoning and Alan Gordon were up for the fight. Sean Bester and Rogan Smart had their work cut out for them. The first climb of the day and the race was Stage 1's King and Queen of the Mountain Challenge. Valley Electrical Titan Racing's RB Kruger led over the summit of the Grootrivier Pass with Matthew Kaiser and Sean Bester in tow. Soon after, the Insect Science Pro pair of Keegan Bontekoning and Alan Gordon regained contact with the early pace setters, while Bester dropped back to his teammate Benburg Bay local Rogan Smart. The decisive moment of the stage came when Kaiser punctured near the halfway mark. While the Valley Electrical Titan Racing team were able to get going, they hemorrhaged time throughout the rest of the stage. This allowed Insect Science pros Bontekoning and Gordon to time trial towards the Tsitsikamma Lodge, racing to build up as much of an advantage as possible. While Best Performance the Bike Shop and Valley Electrical Titan Racing were chasing separately to limit their losses. Bontekoning and Gordon raced home in a time of 2 hours 40 minutes and 11 seconds to claim a vital 5-minute lead over Bester and Smart. Kruger and Kaiser's damage limitation ride could only restrict their losses to 11 minutes, which leaves them with a lot to do in the coming 3 stages. After the opening stage of the 2022 M&G Investments PLETT, this is how the men's general classification is shaping up. In the women's race, the young and brave squad of Tanya Schutter and Eliska Favey would be mixing it up with the Wintergreen Ciuvita teams of Elrika Harmsen Pretorius and Lehani Oosthuizen, as well as Jane Fisher and Renata Bossi. Wintergreen Ciuvita's Elrika Harmsen Pretorius and Lehani Oosthuizen put the hammer down from the gun, summiting the Queen of the Mountain climb with the leading mixed team of Samantha Sanders and Conway Oliver. From there on, Harmsen Pretorius and Oosthuizen raced their rivals on the road rather than their direct women's category competitors as they stormed to stage honours.
Yeah, there you go.
The mixed race category, though, was a far tighter affair, with Sanders and Oliver leading home a trio of mixed teams separated by just over 5 minutes. Among them, Yolandi and Benmelt Swanepoel, who punctured just 2 kilometres out, Benmelt running his bike over the finish line. Also there were Nicola Freitas and Grant Daly, and they could be the ones to watch over the coming days. At pit stop, Team Garmin and Granola are poised for a fierce showdown in the mixed category. The second day of the 4-day stage race, which traverses the scenic Western and Eastern Cape of South Africa's east coast, began at the Tsitsikamma Lodge. With clear skies and warm conditions predicted, it was sunscreen and selfie weather on the garden route. There was a small matter of 66 kilometers with 1,200 meters of climbing to the Assegai Bosch Hotel to consider, however, as it is a highly competitive race as well as a great break from one's daily hustle and bustle. Once the stage started, those with racing instincts soon found their groove. Having lost 11 minutes repairing and then nursing a punctured rear wheel on stage 1, RB Kruger and Matt Kaiser had to take the bull by the horns on stage 2. They were soon setting a pace that only the general classification leaders Keegan Bontekoning and Alan Gordon could follow with ease. Rogan Smart was in trouble early, forcing his partner Sean Bester to sit up and wait. With the Best Performance the Bike Shop combination out of contention, the battle for stage honours would be between the Insect Science Pro and Valley Electrical Titan Racing teams. And what a clash that would prove to be, sadly denying them the time to take in the fantastic views. For the less competitive riders, there was no need to rush through the beautiful landscapes, especially while the route hugged the dramatic Storms River region's cliffs. The wild Indian Ocean far below was in stark contrast to the warm hospitality of the Robberhoek water point. Though early in the day, it provided the perfect excuse for some to linger to refuel before getting back on the bike. At the sharp end, the leading quartet was certainly not lingering. Bontekoning and Gordon had decided that attack was the best form of defence, upping the tempo. It was a tactic that was effective until it wasn't. The Insect Science Pro team appeared to have burnt one too many matches, and suddenly Valley Electrical Titan Racing were able to establish a small gap. Kruger and Kaiser worked to extend that advantage, edging away inch by inch from the race leaders. All Bontekoning and Gordon could do was to remain calm, knowing that they had a sizable general classification advantage. Down the road, Bester and Smart were time trialling through the remaining kilometers, stranded in no man's land between the leaders and the chasers. Unaware that ahead, Insect Science are in the same position, now fighting to limit their losses. The smooth gravel roads through the beautiful farmlands were providing the teams not racing for overall results with respite from the rugged tracks before the climbs to come. They had no need to eke out every valuable watt at this stage. That was the quest of Kruger and Kaiser. An exchange of bottles on the fly at Waterpoint 2 set them up for an assault on the King of the Mountains hotspot. Behind, Insect Science Pro was still looking strong, though just not as powerful as Valley Electrical Titan Racing. The men in black were hunting their second comm title of the race. Climbing first along tree lines next to plantations of Arrow Straight pines, and then up into the Fynbos, the comm ascent is also the final climb of the day. Summiting first was therefore a major advantage in the battle for stage honours. From the summit, a 7-kilometre descent provided a thrilling ride to the finish at Asserheibosch Hotel. Conquering the single-track run-in allowed Harvey Kruger and Matthew Kaiser to claim stage honours by just under 3 minutes, ahead of Keegan Bontekoning and Alan Gordon. Rogan Smart and Sean Best across the line in third on the stage. Valley Electrical Titan Racing's winning time was 2 hours 22 minutes and 48 seconds, eating into the general classification lead of the Insect Science Pro team. This means that Bontekoning and Gordon's lead in the general classification is now 8 minutes and 52 seconds. In the mixed category, the continued misfortune of Yolandi and Benmelt Swanepoel created further opportunities for Nicola Freitas and Grant Daly. Yet, while they were clearly having more fun, the serious racing of pit stop sport won out. Samantha Sanders continued her steady rise back to her full formidable racing fitness with another strong showing. A helping hand on occasion from Conway Oliver simply aided her slightly. The pair sped through the stage, claiming their second victory of the race and extending their general classification lead. Team Garmin's absence elevated LastMinuteTraining.com's Mandy and Wesley Augustine to the category podium. Elrika Harmsen Pretorius and Lahani Oosthuizen continued their dominant charge through the M&G Investments PLETT on stage 2. The Wintergreen Chivita pairing were never truly bothered by their category rivals and again focused on racing the men's and mixed teams around them. Their 3 hour and 12 minute and 16 second time was good enough for 12th overall, further showcasing that they are in a class apart. With 2 days left to race, their goal now will surely be to remain as close as possible to the former Cape Epic winner and solo women's race leader, Catherine Williamson. It was a damn start to the day for stage 3 of the 4-day M&G Investments PLETT. Overnight rain added to the sense of excitement and anticipation ahead of what was the race's Queen stage. 82 kilometres and 1,200 metres of climbing was the order of business today, on a journey from Asserheibosch to the new race village at Menterskraal outside Jeffreys Bay. Insect Science were in the race leaders' jerseys for the second day as they rolled away. After a short neutral ride on the R62, the racing was on as they headed to Waterval. Valley Electrical Titan Racing were keen to chip away at the nearly 9-minute deficit to overall leaders Insect Science, and the race's longest stage was the ideal opportunity for Matt Kaiser and Harvey Kruger to do just that. The welcome rain in the parched Langkloof gave the riders a brief shoe wetting as they headed for the day's first big challenge, the King of the Mountain climb near Churchill Dam. Stage 2 winners Kaiser and Kruger had lost 11 minutes on a mechanical bedeviled Stage 1, began applying pressure on the rough and rutted track. Insect Science's Keegan Bontekoning and Alan Gordon were distanced by the high-tempo climbing of their rivals. The elastic band stretched and strained before snapping near the top, and for the third stage in a row, Kaiser was first over the top of the comm. More importantly, he and Kruger had taken a firm grip on the stage. The road through the lush Fynbos was one of the most beautiful sections of the entire race. The Churchill Dam, which was completed in 1943, was at a paltry 22% of its 35 million cubic metre capacity. Also low on capacity were the race leaders, Bontekoning looking for his partner Gordon, as the motivated Kaiser and Krier pair turned up the heat. The strong man from Tsanin, Gordon, was not having his best day and fighting to hold his younger partner's wheel. Their firm hold on the lead was starting to loosen. Emboldened by their rival struggles, Valley Electrical Titan Racing worked in unison to increase their lead on the fast, flat farm roads. Both new to the team, they were proving to be a formidable stage racing combination. While the turbines churned out power at the wind farm close to Jeffreys, Gordon and Bontekoning were managing their flagging energy as best they could. Third on the road was Shornick Bester and Rogan Smart, a team that came about when PLETT local Smart bumped into a holidaying former road pro Bester in December. Despite the suffering, Smart, who works at the bike shop in PLETT, was having a blast. Up ahead, Kaiser and Krier rolled into Mentor's Kraal to take their second stage win on the trot in 3 hours 34 minutes. The Tsitsikamma Crystal Water never tasted better. An unfortunate navigational error late in the stage brought 4 teams to the finish together behind them. Kevin Evans and Neil Clark leading the Best of Performance Bike Shop pair and Insect Science home after a grueling bumpy ride into a strong easterly wind. The mixed race was another superb display by the pit stop sport pair of Conway Oliver and Samantha Sanders. Sanders is returning to good form after a lengthy battle with long COVID. She and Oliver are a strong combination. They were 5th over the line in 3 hours 57 minutes. Grant Daly and Nicola Freitas of Granola were just over 3 minutes behind them in 3rd. The mixed is going to go to the wire. The Wintergreen Cheervita team of Elrika Harms and Pretorius and Lehani Oosthuizen had another solid day in the women's race. Riding together for the first time, they've not missed a beat on all 3 days. Well matched on and off the bike, like geese, they supported each other through the tough times and took turns on the front. They powered to the finish in 4 hours and 11 minutes for another stage win. A thick blanket of cloud rolled back to reveal a stunning sunrise over Mentor's Kraal near Jeffreys Bay. It was the 4th and final stage of the M&G PE PLETT. Lehani Oosthuizen and Elrika Harms and Pretorius had over an hour's lead in the women's race. Matt Kaiser and Harvey Krier were just under 3 minutes ahead of the Kings of Neon, Alan Gordon and Keegan Bontekoning. The final flourish was a 65-kilometre journey northwards to Crossways just outside Gqeberha. It was the shortest stage of the entire race, but there were still challenges to come before a blast through the wondrous 3 river trails took them home with wide smiles. Rogan Smart was an early sufferer up front as he drifted off the back of the lead group, which contained his partner Shornick Bester. Mother mountain biking dealt a cruel hand to Tracy Campbell, who fell hard on the first section of single track. After a quick assessment, husband Bruce knew their hopes of a podium place in the mixed race were gone. Their race was over. In an effort to try and gain time on leaders Valley Electrical Titan Racing, Keegan Bontekoning drove the pace in the lead group. J-Bay's famed railway single track was a chance for the shred junkies to get an early fix. Joining the leaders, Neil Clark of the bike shop had partner Kevin Evans further up the road. A brief moment for Insect Science when they realised Kaiser was just a little bit off the pace, and Smart had lost touch again. The Lurie Dam was the gateway to the Red Holstein Climb, the day's King of the Mountains challenge. Alan Gordon and Keegan Bontekoning's need to escape the clutches of the leaders was evident as they set the pace. A perfect scenario for race leaders Kaiser and Krier. This short, rough, steep section had Bontekoning riding it out. Behind him, Kaiser and then Gordon were off their bikes momentarily. Harvey Krier used the opportunity to surge past Gordon. Shornick Bester was holding back as he waited for partner Smart. The challenging climb drew the best out of the race leaders. Krier was in the groove. Kaiser was soon matching his every pedal stroke, and for the 4th stage in a row, they took the KOM, effectively ensuring that Insect Science were going to have to settle for 2nd place, while Bester and Smart were somewhat further back in 3rd. A run through the Longmoor Forest section led them into the most engaging riding of the day, the flowing, smooth tracks of Three Rivers Trails. The Oxwagon Run was followed by the brand new Dambuster descent before they screamed down Purple Cow. Matt Kaiser and Harvey Kruger crossed the line to take their third stage win and first overall stage race victory. A brilliant achievement considering they lost over 11 minutes to the leaders after stage 1. Erstwhile leaders Insect Sciences Gordon and Bontekoning were 4 minutes back in second place. On GC they were just under 7 minutes adrift of Valley Electrical Titan Racing. Women's race leaders Lehani Oosthuizen and Elrika Hamzen Pretorius' 3 stage wins gave them an hour and a half cushion to the second team, Eliska Favey and Tanya Skitter. The wintergreen Chiveta pair and the green leaders' jerseys were well on course for a 4th stage win before a bent front chainring stopped them in their tracks. They lost just more than 17 minutes trying to fix it. As a result, Favey and Skitter were able to take their first stage win in 3 hours and 57 minutes. Having repaired their chainring, Oosthuizen and Hamzen Pretorius came home in second in 4 hours 14, but did take the overall win by an hour and 15 minutes. The historic old Gamtoos railway bridge was shipped piece by piece from London and completed in 1884. It was used today to get the riders from the south to the north bank of the river. Mixed leaders Sam Sanders and Conway Oliver were in the company of Grant Daly and Nicola Freitas, who were then in second after the Campbells' unfortunate withdrawal. Grant was keen to hitch a ride on Conway's pocket. Twice a winner of the mixed with Catherine Williamson, Oliver was on his way to a 12th stage win at the M&G PLETT and a 3rd overall race victory. The granola pair of Daly and Freitas was second ahead of Mundy and Wesley Augustine. The 10th edition of the M&G Investments PLETT ended in a riot of energised, happy riders flying down the Three Rivers Trails and into Crossways to celebrate a wondrous 4-day journey from Nature's Valley. In a year's time, it'll all happen again in the opposite direction. Keep track of all the M&G Investments PLETT news on our social media platforms at PE_PLETT. And we'll see you in 2023.